Hello, in this video I will show you how to get started with our unified SDK using Poslink. What I have here is a very simple ePOS application where you can add some products to the basket, you can enter a tip if you want, and also you can pay for the products. The payment button is not doing anything at the moment because we haven't integrated the unified SDK yet, so let's get into that right away. To start the SDK integration, make sure that you check the requirements that you need to follow in order to integrate the SDK. If we are using older versions, don't worry, feel free to contact us and we will help you for sure. Okay, now for the project setup, first thing that we need to do is to check whether we have Maven Central included in the repositories. Let's do that. We need to open settings.gradle. And as you can see, we have Maven Central included automatically, so we don't have to do anything here. Now we return to the documentation. The next step is to add the dependency. And as you can see, the newest version is 1.0.1. We can open Android Studio again and add the dependency. Replace the version with the newest one. Sorry. And now we can sync. Okay, now our project is successfully synced. We can move on to the coding. Now what we need to do is to initialize the Poslink SDK. For that, I will use an object which will contain all the logic related to the SDK. And now we can start copy-pasting the code. So let's open the documentation. Now we are in the setup section. As you can see, the first step is to get your client credentials, for which we have a separate video, so feel free to check that out. And the next step is to create the Poslink SDK instance. If you are using Java still, don't worry because you can copy Java code directly, so that's not an issue. But since we are using Kotlin, we need to copy the Kotlin code, so I will copy that. I can open Android Studio, and I will just paste it here. Okay, of course I need to add the imports. Good. Make sure if you are in the production environment, of course, to use isProductionEnv and to set it to true. Since we will be using development environment, we can leave it as is. For the auth config, this is the place where you are pasting the client ID and the client secret, so I will do that in a second. Okay, I added the client ID and the client secret. I just hard-coded it for the sake of simplicity, but in your case, make sure that you are storing these credentials in a secure place. For the ePOS instance ID, for the sake of simplicity, we are leaving it as it is. And for the logger, we will implement the logger using the documentation. So I can copy the code for that. Open Android Studio. Paste it and just add the import. Make sure that you are importing the Thea SDK utilities. And also I will import the log class. Okay, and now we have a custom logger, so you can see in the logcat what's happening in the SDK, which is very, very useful. Okay, now that we initialize the Thea Poslink SDK, we can set up the transactions API. To continue with the integration, we now need to set up the transactions API, so I will create a very simple function for that called setup. Okay. And now we can start copying the code. We will open documentation, of course. And here is the code for setting up the transactions API, so we can copy and paste it right here. And add the required imports. For the failure handling, I will just log the error for the sake of this video to make it simple. Okay, and an important part in the unsuccess is that you need to store the result in a variable so that you can make operations related to the SDK later. So I will save it in this variable here. But of course, to access it from anywhere, I need to make this a global variable. And now that I have a setup function, I need to call it when the application starts. So in my case, I can do it in the main activity, in the onCreate. So I will call TheaUtils setup. And now if I run the app, as you can see, the Thea UI is shown, which will basically walk you through the activation flow. So we can go through the steps. First thing is the login. Now I need to scan the QR code, but also you can enter the code on the website. It's XYZ because we are using the development environment. And I will scan the QR code very quickly just to authenticate. I'm authenticated, and the first step is to select the store. So we have only one store, so we will select that. The next step is to select the terminal with which you would like to receive payments. And the final step is to just turn on the integrated mode in the terminal, which we were explaining in the previous video, so feel free to check that out. Okay. Now our SDK is set up and we also went through the activation flow. Okay, after the activation flow, there are still some things that we need to mention. For example, if you want to access the current selected terminal or the current selected store, you can access that by the link device details very simply. And also, if you would like to re-authenticate, for example, or select a different store or a different terminal, you can do that too. We have functions like clear user auth, which will clear the user authentication and you need to log in again. And then you have the clear device link, which will force you to reselect the store and the terminal. So I can show you that in practice. What I did in the UI for the sample application, I added two buttons. One will clear the user authentication and one will clear the device link. I also need to create the functions here in the TheaUtils. So function clear user auth, for example. And now I need Poslink SDK clear user auth. We will do the same thing for clearing the device link. Okay. And now we can call these functions in the UI. So here we have the button and we can call TheaUtils clear user auth. You can copy that, paste it here as well, but we will call the device link. Okay, and now I can show you how it will behave. So I will restart the application. Okay. Now we can see that we have the two buttons for clearing the user auth and clearing the device link. So we can do the clear device links first. So now if I click that, and now if I restart the application, as soon as the setup will be called, we will be forced to select the store and terminal again. So I can just select store, terminal, and go through the flow again, and now everything is okay. And for the clearing user auth, I can click that too, restart the app. And as you can see, now it's enough to just log in. So I will scan the QR code. And I successfully logged in and everything works. So yeah, I just wanted to mention these two functions, which are very important and you can use them in some important use cases. So thank you for watching this video.